Hello everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be sewing this blouse I'm putting on right now. In my last tutorial, I shared with you guys the pattern drafting, and this picture right here is the inspiration and what I'm actually trying to recreate. So if this is something you're interested in, if you've seen the pattern drafting tutorial, let us go ahead and start sewing. If you're still yet to see it, you will need to see the pattern drafting tutorial so that you're not confused as to what is going on here. So like I said before, from the last video, we drafted out all these patterns and I went ahead to cut them out on my fabric. So what I have done now is to cut out lining pieces for all of the pieces that we drafted out in the last videos. So let me just go ahead and remove the pin, and I will explain to you guys, if you're using a chantilly lace fabric like this one, how to go about cutting out the lining. Now these are all the pieces that I drafted out. These are the front pieces. This is the center front, and these are the side fronts that we drafted out in the last video. Now because this is a chantilly lace and I'm going to be padding a bustier in front, so I cut out double of all of my lining. So for the center front lining here, you can see I cut out two of it. So all of the lining, both the front and the back lining, you should cut out two so that you will use one to cover the lace and then the other one will serve as a lining. So this here, you can see I have two of each, and I did the exact same thing for the back as well. So once you're done, just remove one set, that is going to be the lining, and then this other set is going to be like with the one you use to laminate the lace. I really hope you guys understand. So that is it. So what I'm going to do now is to just place my lining underneath the lace to use it and cover up the lace like this. If you have air stay, sorry, if you have hemming gum, you can, some people use hemming gum to laminate their lace to their lining. I do not like to do that. I just feel like at the end of the day the hemming gum will start giving a white cast later. So what I do is I just pin them together and I try as much as possible to make sure that I am arranging the pieces properly. But if you're not sure you can arrange the pieces when you pin them down alone, you can just go over to the sewing machine and sew all the way around after you have joined the pieces together with your pin so that they become a one piece. Okay, so now once you're through with this, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do now is to cut out our wadding for us to use to pad the bustier area. So this center front padded fabric, you can see the wadding I'm using is not a very strong one. It's just normal. It's not too soft, it's not too strong. So I placed the center front of my bustier here, as you can see, and from where the bustier curve started is where I placed it from, and I'm going ahead to cut it out. Okay, so now I'm done with the center front. This is what it looks like. If we had not labeled, if we had not lined the lace, you can see what it would be looking like. The white will be showing under, so you need to line the lace first before you use another lining. Okay, so now for the bustier area, just from where the curve started as well, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out my padding to use and pad this part. That's the other side of the front. So just place it from where your curve started so that you don't end up wasting your padded fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out like this, as you can see. And for the side part, I like to make it have a curve. So instead of it looking funny like this, I'll just curve it out because it's kind of like a bustier, so it gives a bustier shape. So yeah, this is all for the cutting out of the padded fabric for us to pad the bustier area. So this one and this is where this one will be placed, and this is for the other side of the bustier. And of course the center front, we cut it out together earlier, so you guys saw what that looks like. So this is what it's going to look like. Okay, and this is the center front here. If I turn it over to the back, you can see what all the three pieces are looking like. So what I like to do is I like to reduce the length of the wadding at the top because we're going to be adding a yoke to this piece so that it's not too full and bulky there and breaking your needle. So just take half an inch away and do the exact same thing for these other two pieces as well. Okay, just away from the top. Okay, so now once you're through with this, I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and sew these pieces together. So I'll just arrange them back. Remember now that the wadding should not get all the way to the top because we have cut it out by about half an inch. So once you're done, if you can, pin it down, but if you're sure you'll be able to stitch them together without pinning like I'm doing now, just arrange all the pieces together, take a side front like I've done and place it side by side on the curved area with the center front, and just go ahead and pin it from top to bottom. And the areas you're pinning down right now, you're going to go over to the sewing machine and stitch them down. when you're doing this, just make sure you're arranging all the pieces, because at this point you have a lot of pieces together, especially with the fact that I did not laminate my pieces, I only just pin them down. So there will be a lot of pieces that you'll be working with. Just make sure that you're arranging everything properly as you're pinning it down from top to bottom. So whatever you do to this side is what you will do to the other side as well. So once I'm through with this, I'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch down the areas that I've pinned. Alright guys, so I'm done stitching it down and this is what it looks like. I've gone ahead to iron all my seams open on the inside, so you can see the bustier area is actually standing perfectly, and you can see where I made my stitches. So this is all for the front pieces for now. For the other lining pieces of the front, as you can see, I went ahead to stitch it down just like I did for the front piece. But what I did was I ironed air stay to it before I went ahead to stitch it down. So you can see what the two pieces are looking like right now. So it is just perfectly the same thing. What I did on the actual fabric was what I did on the lining. So now this is what we have. Now what I'm going to go over and do is to attach the yoke to the front pieces. And remember the yoke earlier, this is what we had two different pieces and they looked different from each other. So this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is remove my pins, and as I've arranged the yoke right now, this is what it's going to look like, right? So I'm going to turn it over like this on this side and turn this over as well, and I'm just going to pin it down here so that the two pieces are not moving from where I want them to be. This is what our yoke is looking like, and I'm just going to go ahead and cover it up with my lining. I'll just pin down this area, this straight neckline area here, and I'll go over to the sewing machine and just make a straight stitch to join the lining and the actual fabric together, and after which I'll iron it out and show you guys what it looks like. So just go ahead and do the exact same thing if you're making this blouse right now. So guys, this is what it looks like after I was done stitching down the yoke and I turn it over to the right side and ironed it out. This is what the back is looking like right now. You can see the bustier area with the space for my bust. So yeah, this is it for the front. I'm just going to take this away for now and we're going to go ahead and work on the back pieces. Now for the back pieces, these are the pieces that we're going to be working with. Remember I told you guys that this layer for eyelet, I'm not going to cut it out yet. So we're going to work on this other part first. So I'm going to remove my pattern paper and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch down the two back pieces. So this one and this one will be arranged like this. And of course, this other piece, this tiny piece, will be stitched with them. So we just arrange it as it should be. So this one will be here, and then this other one will be on this side as well. So remember I told you guys to also double the lining that you're cutting out for the back. So I'm going to go over to the sewing machine right now and I'm just going to place these two together and just stitch them down together. You can actually just go and stitch it down without pinning, but just for the sake of this tutorial, you can see I'm pinning it down to just show you guys what I'm about to do. So whatever I do on the actual fabric, I'm going to do on the lining pieces as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I'm done stitching it down as you can see, and you can see I've already placed the layer that I'm using to cover up the lace, and then the other layer that is going to be the lining. After joining it, I just went ahead to iron stay to it. So this is what it is looking like right now, and then this would be here as well. Okay, so now this is what we have. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the yoke. For the yoke pieces, I've already gone ahead to just stitch around the neckline area with a bias just to secure those areas nicely, and this is what I have. So now to stitch the yoke and the actual fabric together, before we do that, one thing I want to do is to join the back with that piece I told you guys I had not cut out earlier. So I finally did cut it out, and I cut it out on my lining fabric, which is the doll face fabric, and I went ahead to iron ST. So when I was cutting it out, I made sure to add half an inch stitching allowance all the way around, and I cut it out in a fold. So here you can see I cut it out in a fold and added half an inch stitching allowance all the way around. And another thing that I did was I made sure to iron ST to it, so you can see what it is looking like right now. So this is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this on one side of the actual fabric like this. So let me just go ahead and pin it down. So you're going to sew it on your actual fabric and also on your lining. So this is the side of the actual fabric. I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down, and after which I'll sew it to the lining as well to join it together. So by the time you're done with this, one side of your back pattern is going to be looking straight. Okay, so this is the actual fabric. Now this is the lining. I will just place it right sides facing each other as well and just go ahead and pin it down. I really hope that you guys understand. This is just one side. So this is just one side of the back, okay, not the both sides. I'm just working on one side. So I'll place the actual fabric and then I'll place the lining. I'll just go over and stitch them down on both sides. So by the time I'm done, it will look something like this. I really hope you guys understand. So I'm just going to make straight stitches on both sides here so that when I'm done with this side, I'll do the exact same thing for this other side as well. Alright guys, so this is what it looks like after we're done. If you open it up, each one up, you can see, right, it has gone together actually at this point just because we have ST there. But this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what I have, and is exactly the same thing I have on the other side as well. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch down my yoke. So I'll place the both of them on the areas that are supposed to be on the back piece. Okay, so this is what it's supposed to look like. So what you would do is turn the yoke over to the wrong side like this, and then just use the lining part to cover it in. So you just turn everything over to the wrong side, use the lining part to cover it in, and then just go ahead and pin all the neckline together. All right, so when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the yoke area is well aligned on the neckline. Okay, so just like I'm doing, just go ahead and pin it down, and I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and just do around the neckline here. So I'll do the same thing here, place it like this, and just open up the lining and bring it back to cover the front like this, so that the neckline is like aligned straight, and just go ahead and pin it down. I really hope that you guys understand this. This is not for total beginners. This is kind of like an advanced video. So beginners, you guys might struggle a little bit with this because it's a bit, there's just a lot of things to it, okay? But if you can follow it, you will totally understand what I'm doing. So just go ahead and pin it around the neckline like this. All I did was to turn the whole blouse over with the lining, and just go ahead and I'm just going to stitch down the neckline. So my loves, after I was done stitching down the neckline and turning it over to the right side and ironing it out, this is what it looks like. You can see that the back pattern already has that very beautiful shape that we have on our blouse, and I'm really loving how it is looking like right now. So at this point, the next thing we have to do is to join the front and the back pieces together, right sides facing each other on the shoulder, which is very simple. So just place your front and back pieces together, go ahead and pin down the shoulder, and just go over to the sewing machine and make a straight stitch to join them down. Alright guys, so I'm done joining the shoulders, and this is what it looks like, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and join the side, and the way I want to do this is in a way where I will have my both the front and the back looking very neat, okay? So I'm going to start from the lining pieces on the inside. So the lining pieces that you have on the inside, go ahead and pick them first. So you can see just the lining pieces, just the way I'm doing it right now. Go ahead and pick them first and just pin them down. So we're going to be stitching the lining separately and the actual fabric separately. When you do this, you're going to see how neat your work is going to look both on the inside and outside. But this is a bit advanced, okay? So yeah, so I'm just going ahead to pin it down as you can see. So once you're through pinning down this side, you're just going to turn this side over like this. This is the front part, so just turn it over to where you can now pick the both of them, and also just go ahead and pin it down. So what I'm going to go ahead and do with this is I am going to be stitching them together separately but with the exact same measurement, okay? So what you do on the actual fabric is what you would do on the lining. So for this side now, you can see I'm done pinning it down, and I will do the exact same thing for the other side. So I'll stitch down the lining separately and stitch down the actual fabric separately. So this is the lining part that we pinned down before, and then this is the actual fabric part, stitch them down separately. Like I said, this is a bit of an advanced video, okay? So this is what it's going to look like on the inside, and this is what it's going to look like in front. So it's going to look very neat. All right, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side as well before we come and give that shape that our blouse has in front. So guys, after making my stitch, this is what I had. You can see what it looks like. So the stitch is done in front. Now if I turn it over to the wrong side, you can see the stitches were made on the inside, and I've already cut out the excess allowances, and you can see what the back is looking like. So because we did inner stitching on both sides, the both front and back actually looks neat. So once you chew with this, the next thing I want to do is to give the shape that I want this blouse to be, okay? So at the back here, I'm going to come up by about 2 inches and just use these 2 inches to draw a straight line all the way on just the back part. Okay, you saw how I arranged the bottom of this blouse. So once you're through with this, the next thing you want to do is to just give the shape that you want. Now I'm just using my free hand for this, so I want it to be curved on one side like this, and then this other curve will come to the middle like this. Okay, I'm just doing what I can. I might not be able to get exactly what's in our inspiration. Okay, so but this is still going to look nice. So I'm just going ahead to cut it out like this, and then I will just cut out this other side. The curve is only on the front part, and then the straight part is the back, so just cut the back side straight. So when you open it up, you will see how nice it looks. So you can see this is the curve shape that I have at the bottom of my blouse. So yeah, this is looking nice. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is to go and secure this end with a bias. But before I do that, I will need to add my bone to the back. So this center back here, I need to create my bone casing so that I can add my bone to it. So I'm going to stitch 2 lines on both sides. I'm just going to show you guys when I'm done with this. So let's go over to the sewing machine. Let me show you how to make the bone channels. So you're going to start by making a straight line very close to your lace, just like I'm doing right now. So make a straight line literally on top of your lace like I'm doing here. So once you're through with that, you're going to go ahead and sew very close to that first line. Now, this sewing you're sewing, you can use your bone to measure to be sure that that space you're sewing that you're giving is going to be enough for your bone to pass through. I already did. I'm using about ½ inch bone, and this is just going to be enough. So this is what it looks like after I was done with one bone channel. So this is one. So I'm doing another one on this edge. So I'm just going to place my sewing machine, and I'm just going to go ahead and sew it straight. This side I'm just going to be making with a one stitch because it's already in a fold. So just like this. It's actually very simple when you use this method. So yeah, this is it. So I have my 2 bone channels. This is 1 and this is 2. Alright guys, so now that I'm done with my bone channels, on this side you can see I've already placed my bones. So I just have one more that I've not placed. All I have to do is pass it through the bone casing, and this is it basically. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the bone doesn't get all the way to the end. You should leave about ½ inch so that the bone would not get all the way to the end. And I've done the exact same thing on this side as well. So once you're through with this, the next thing you want to do is to now finish up the edge of your blouse after you have placed your bone. Like I said, make sure that your bone is not too long. It doesn't get all the way to the edge of your blouse so that you'll be able to finish up the end of your blouse. So now this is it. I'm just reducing the bones that I feel are too long. And now I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to secure the end of my blouse with a bias. Okay. So I'm going to be doing it from the wrong side. I'll place it like this and I'm going to go ahead and just pin it all the way around first, and then I'll take it over to the sewing machine, make a first stitch and then make a top stitch to secure it in place. So after making my first stitch, this is me now using the bias to cover up the rough area. So this is it. After you've stitched down the areas that you pinned down before, you will have it looking like this. So you just fold it up like this and just use it to cover up this area all the way around, and you're going to see how neat it looks. Now if you don't have a matching bias, you can use your fabric that you're working with. That's the lining fabric for this. Just cut it out in a bias manner. But for me, I had a very matching bias, so it's just perfect. So this is what it looks like right now. Alright guys, so after we're done with the bottom part, you can see how neat it looks. So now the next thing I want to do is to fix my sleeve, and for the sleeve I'm going to be attaching a long sleeve, and I've already gone ahead to cut it out and stitch down the sides of my sleeve, making sure that the cap area of the sleeve will fit perfectly into the area that I have on the armhole area of my blouse. So this is what I have. So I'm going to just attach my sleeve like this, the side of my blouse with the side stitch of the sleeve, and then I'll just go ahead and stitch it down. The best way to do this is to turn it over to the wrong side, just align it perfectly. Now you can go ahead and stitch your sleeve whichever way you already know how to stitch your sleeve, but this is going to be the most perfect method because we did inner stitching for this blouse. So just place it on the inside, stitch the sleeve perfectly to fit the armhole area, and just go ahead and pin it and stitch it all the way around. And that's what I will do for the other side as well. So after I was done, this is what my blouse is looking like. As you can see the bottom part looking really neat, both in front and on the wrong side. And of course, I have attached my sleeve here. So the next thing I will do is at this upper part here, I'm just going to be placing a hook and eye later to finish up this upper part. So I'll do that later. And now I'm going ahead to mark the areas where I want to place my eyelet. Now my eyelets my eyelet machine got broken, so I had to take this over to the market for them to fix for me. So I just marked the places I wanted to place my eyelet, which I'm marking at 1.5 inch distance from each other. So what you do on one side is what you would do on the other side as well. So I went ahead to take this over for them to fix for me, and after they were done fixing it, this is what it looks like. So the last part of this blouse will be for us to add a modesty panel to the back. So I have cut out a piece of fabric that I want to use for this. So let me just make sure and show you guys the measurement that I'm using. So this length here is about 7.5 inch, and notice it is in the fold. So from here it's 7.5 inch, and then this length here is 12 inches. Now that needs to align with what you have at the back here. So I have 7.5 inches going to cover the opening that I have, and then the length that I have on my blouse is the length of the opening is about 12 inches, which is just perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead now and pin this all the way around, and I'm just going to leave a little space to turn it over to the right side and then stitch it down. So this space here is where I will turn it over from, and then go ahead and iron it out and make a top stitch on that space that will be open. So guys, so this is what it looks like. I just made a top stitch on the opening, and this is what I have. So as you can see, we can now use this to cover up the open space that we have at the back of our blouse basically. So when you're placing this, you want to make sure that you're pinning it after this border layer. It should be after this border layer, okay, after this. So I'll just pin it down here and pin it down here as well. So basically what I'll be doing on this is to go over to the sewing machine and just make a top stitch, since I have a very matching thread, just a top stitch very close to where my bone started. And that will basically be all for the making of this blouse. So once you're through with that, you can just go ahead and lace the back with your lacing, and trust me, that's all. This blouse is done, and you can see what it looks like on me. It looks very beautiful. So yeah, that's all for the making of this blouse. I really hope that you guys find the tutorial helpful, because this is a very long one, and it's actually for those of us that actually have an idea of sewing already. So lastly, I'll place my hook here, and that will basically be all. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.